Ancient Greece has a world of beauty, art, and philosophy. But for the countless female concubines who served as objects of pleasure and status symbols for the elite, life was a waking nightmare. So, how was the life for them away from luxury? From the glittering halls of the Acropolis to the shadowy depths of the harem, we will reveal the shocking truth about the horrific life of female concubines in ancient Greece. Ancient Greek culture was renowned across the world for its extensive contributions to the field of history, philosophy, and art. But when it came to sexuality, attitudes and beliefs in ancient Greece varied widely depending on the person's gender. The sexuality of a woman was often viewed with disdain and distrust, notably in ancient Athens, where their prime function in the society was to bear lawful offspring. However, this was not the case in modern times. On the other side, the sexuality of a guy was seen in a fairly permissive manner. Mistresses we maintain for the sake of pleasure, concubines for the daily care of our persons, but brides to bear us legitimate offspring and to be devoted guardians of our families. Demosthenes writes in his work Against Neaira, on the other hand, beneath the surface of the Greek Empire lies a dark side, where the lives of women, particularly concubines, were fraught with horror and oppression. This was especially true in the last years of the empire. Women who were born into lower social classes, who were held as slaves or as war captives, were frequently coerced into becoming concubines. Concubines were women who were maintained as sexual servants but had no other rights or freedoms. The name concubine was used to designate these women. In ancient Greece, the existence of a concubine was nothing short of a living nightmare. They were subjected to humiliation, abuse, and torture from the moment they were abducted until the day they were released. The majority of the time, concubines were obtained either through the purchase of slaves at the market or as war booty. They were handled as property because they were seen as such. They had no say in what would happen to them, and the people who owned them had total authority over their life. Concubines were typically renamed and had their identities concealed after they were brought under the control of their lords. To identify them as property, they were frequently branded or tattooed. The concubines were compelled to dwell in quarters that were overcrowded and suffocating, and their living conditions were frequently deplorable. They were forced to put up with the quench of their excrement, and a significant number of them became ill as a direct result of the unsanitary surroundings. The concubine owners who sexually abused them, much like the other women in the household, they were compelled to engage in sexual activity any time their masters desired, and a significant number of them were repeatedly raped. In certain situations, the masters of the concubines would coerce the concubines into having sexual relations with other males, sometimes even the concubines' acquaintances or relatives. Since they were denied any rights or liberties, the concubines had no other option but to cooperate. The physical abuse of the concubines was as nearly as common as the sexual abuse that they suffered at the hands of their masters. If they disobeyed their owners, they risked being beaten, whipped, or even put to death. Some of the concubines were coerced into having abortions or into giving birth to infants who were then removed from their care after they were born. The masters were able to do anything they pleased to the concubines, since they had complete control over their lives and were immune to any repercussions for their actions. In ancient Greece, the life of a concubine was nothing short of a never-ending battle for survival. As a result of the traumatic experiences they had, many of them suffered from depression, anxiety, and several other disorders related to their mental health. Some of the concubines felt that the only way to end their suffering was to take their own lives. Those who were fortunate enough to survive, however, were left with mental and physical wounds that would follow them for the rest of their lives. We hope that this insight into the horrible realities of life as an object of pleasure and status symbol for the privileged has given you a greater understanding for history's forgotten woman. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical videos.